Cinco de Mayo weekend is going to be absolutely stacked as we are getting closer and closer to seeing Canelo Alvarez take on William Scull in Saudi Arabia on May 3rd. How are you feeling about this?
Man, I'm just excited. You know, the face of boxing, King Canelo, is back. Of course, there is some criticism. He will be facing William Scull, a fighter that many people don't know about. You know, this guy is known just because Canelo had to relinquish one of the belts. He picked it up, and guess what? Now he's a mandatory to fight Canelo Alvarez. But on the other hand, at least we do got a stacked card. We got to remember, Bakole versus Efe Ajagba's on there. Jaime Munguia versus Bruno Sarase, which would be the rematch. I'm really excited because it feels like it's just a revenge arc for both fighters.
Yeah, that's true. Jaime Munguia coming off an absolutely terrible loss, especially getting knocked out in his hometown of Tijuana, Mexico. And then Martin Bakole as well, taking a very tough loss just this past 2 months ago against Joseph Parker.
But doesn't that just make you feel like, wow, you know, Martin Bakole is a great fighter. The fact that he came in on a 2-day notice against a dangerous fighter like Joseph Parker, you know, that just shows the honor and the pride he has. The African culture is a big culture. I believe he's from the Congo. He came in on a 2-day notice, flew in, fought the same day. Unfortunately, he got knocked out. But at the same time, credit to him because not many fighters could do that. A lot of people want to criticize that it's just because of a check. But honestly, I believe it's because he's that great. Again, with Jaime Munguia, I really believe we're seeing a revenge tour. You know, the fact that the guy got brutally knocked out by an unknown fighter, you know, when he was dominating the whole fight. I think the fact that he came back to train with Eddie Reynoso and Canelo Alvarez is really going to help him improve on the things he already does good, and the things he does bad, he's just going to get better at. So I'm excited to see that.
Jaime Munguia, I mean, hopefully he does come back and get a victory. Tough loss, but prior to that, he had great fights, as he did also fight Canelo Alvarez.
That's
which,
right.
In my opinion, he was winning those first 4 rounds until he eventually got dropped. And even before then, he was getting the job done as well. Bakole as well. Before losing to Joseph Parker, he had just gotten an absolutely dominant victory in Los Angeles, beating Big Baby Jared Anderson by knockout with that vicious uppercut. We saw how bad it was. It looked like he almost broke his neck, man.
Definitely. So it's still a good undercard, although, you know, Canelo is fighting another fighter that, like I said, not very known. A lot of people consider him a bum. Well, we can't forget that the guy is Cuban. So if anything, we got to always give respect where respect's due. We know the amateur system has a lot of Cuban champions. You know, the Cuban fighters are nothing to play with. They always come in technical. They're very defense savvy, and they have very good footwork. Now, William Scull, I was watching some footage on him. To me, he's not that impressive. You know, he does seem like he tries to use his length and his size. Sometimes he likes using his foot movement a little bit, but it just seems like, you know, he's a couple levels below Canelo Alvarez. You know, when you fight somebody like a Canelo, you can't just be there just because you got chosen. You really have to have the experience and the title fights in order to get something done against Canelo Alvarez. Now, on the other hand, many people will criticize Canelo. Of course, he's been getting criticized for the Munguias, for the Edgar Berlangas, for the old Triple Gs. When is he finally going to fight a good fight? Well, we all know that if Canelo gets past William Scull in May 3rd, he's gonna aim for a fight versus Terrence Bud Crawford sometime in September.
This is gonna be one hell of a fight. I mean, Canelo, one of the greatest Mexican boxers of all time, and then you got a boxer from Omaha, Nebraska, Terrence Bud Crawford, who has literally been demolishing his division.
You know, I believe this is gonna be a great fight as well, but we can't count out William Scull. Me personally, I do think it's going to be too much for him to handle. I think Canelo's going to come in and do his thing. You know, he's going to put pressure. But one thing I will say, if Canelo's, you know, not taking this guy serious and he's coming out of shape, which I doubt he will, but if he's coming out of shape, you got to remember, Saudi Arabia is a whole different country with a whole different atmosphere and different weather. William Scull, he's used to fighting in people's backyards. Canelo's never fought outside of North America. So we're going to really finally see how Canelo could perform in other continents and in other country, you know, so that matters a lot. My final prediction, though, I could see Canelo stopping William Scull around round 7. I believe, you know, he's going to just show the experience, the body work, the head movement. I think he's going to want to make this a statement just to show Terrence Crawford why he is the king.
I don't think Canelo is going to personally get a knockout. I personally think the way Canelo's been going with these past fights, like he did Berlanga, Munguia, and even Triple G and all those other guys, I think it's going to go the full distance, the full 12. And obviously, I believe he's going to win very dominantly.
Of course, it's going to be a big weekend. We got in-away fighting the day after. We got Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, and Teofimo Lopez headlining a card in Times Square in New York a day before. So make sure you guys tune in to this big Cinco de Mayo weekend headlined by Canelo Alvarez. Thank you guys once again. My name's Eric.
And I'm your boy, Mac. Thank you guys once again for tuning into the Pound for Pound Boxing channel. As always, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And we're out.